We're good.
Are we live?
Sounds like it.
Are we recording? This is locked up here.
And if the video's laggy, then.
Ours was. Yeah.
All right,
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, this is.
Thanks for trying.
Thank you. Computer,
oh,
if you're getting feedback from other people.
oh, okay, so good. All right, it is past 5:30, but I will call the regular city council meeting for Monday, April 28th, at 5:48 to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Scott,
Here.
Councilor Grams,
Present?
Councilor Jarvela. Here. Councilor Ekman.
Here.
And Councilor Matheson, attending convention. So we have a forum.
Alrighty, moving on to the pledge of allegiance, can you please stand for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving on to the consent agenda, has everybody had a chance to read through that? Any questions, comments regarding that before I ask for a motion? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to accept the consent agenda as is.
Make that motion.
We have a motion
I'll
from
second that.
Councilor Jarvela, second from Councilor Grams, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Moving on to the guests and citizens forum. Does anybody have anything to say for that? Hearing nothing, moving on to reports from staff, city administrator Wyberg.
Yeah, moving to the board. I think the biggest thing that we've been working on this week is the arena project, working with the Mighty Ducks grant to get their stuff short up at D as well. That's kind of been a big focus this week. COVID relief funds, just to give you an update, everything's been filed with the state, 2024 has been, total money's been spent, obligated and spent, so we're looking forward to closing out the COVID relief fund monies. And that's all I have for today. Unless anybody has any questions.
Sounds good, thank you for that. Recreation Director Peterson.
It's throughout the golf course, we're still dealing with the frozen water line that goes from city limits here out to the golf course, and hopefully with this rain. Should be a lot of water here any day now, I'm hoping. Before that happens, I know we're having Darbo at the clubhouse has to get a health inspector to look at everything. Until they have running water and water to the toilets, you can have a tough time opening up that. So we're kind of waiting at the mercy of the weather here, like I said, I think this rain's gonna help out a lot, so I think we're definitely gonna know something by this week. My goal is to open by Friday, I hope. So
Is it a water main that's frozen?
it's just an underground, like, black pipe, one 2-inch thicker plastic line that goes to the golf course that's dug underground, so.
I can speak to that as well. So in 1999, in 2001, we put a city water line out to the golf course. It's a 2-inch black plastic line buried roughly 2 feet deep, but it does follow the contour out the ground. So you do get low spots where water, even though we winterize it, we blow it out in the fall. You can still get water that collects and fills the pipe. And if it is in the frost line, which it is, we just dug 2 graves at the cemetery on Friday, and there is still frost in the ground 2 feet deep, so. Hence, the water was.
That's why the stuff is running off of it.
Correct, yeah, the ground's not taking water right now. But it's the frost is soft, you know, if you will, so. Like, well, lucky, I think we're close to.
Once you get a pencil straight through there, it's not just.
How long of a line is it?
That's almost 1.5 miles from the end of
2
College.
inch?
Yeah, up 2 inch.
Oh,
So to blow it out, it takes almost a day, and then we generally put RV antifreeze in and blow it through. And generally speaking, when you see antifreeze come on the other end, you'd like to think that all water is vacated from the line, but as we found out this year, it's not.
And I've been one blowing it out for the last 4 years, and I've done it the same, and I can't tell you why it's happening right now, so.
But we also, there were years where we always harped on everybody, not till May first, not till May first, and this year we tried turning the water on April 20th. Because people are trying to bit all the camp, and when people force us to do things early, we end up with things that are still frozen or still freeze Saturday morning. I was a campground wanting water last week, and Saturday morning when I woke up, it was 25 degrees. And we turned on water, I think we would have had broken things this week. So it is what it is.
You don't think it's groundwater and it might not to crack or anything?
No, because we're not getting any. We turn the water on, we're getting nothing to the other end. The line is building pressure, but it's not coming out, so.
And I
it
actually
has to-
physically walked it through the woods and it's not coming up, so it's definitely not broken by things.
Good.
I almost wish it was, so we could locate where the problem was. This is a good thing knowing that pipe is that strong.
And that pipe is very resilient. We had it in other places and we've had it freeze before, and it doesn't seem to affect it. It's not like other pipe that bursts. Unfortunately, still goes.
Yeah, so we'll figure something by, geez, I hope by the end of this week for sure. And then, otherwise, mowers, I've started mowing a little bit, on, rings and, tees and everything's looking good. We got the mowers worked on about a month ago. Before I got this job, hoping that I was gonna get it, and regardless if I didn't, that the equipment was gonna be up and running and. But yeah, I think we're sitting pretty good over there, except for the water issue, obviously, but, the arena part, I did talk to, youth hockey, I did get so we're trying to get new rubber mats in front of the, where all the players come on and off the ice and stuff like that, we got a quote from those last year. And that was around like $6,900. I did get, when I talked to youth hockey the other day, they, promised me up to $7,000 for new mats, so. An additional $1,500 for, new skate sharpener, so. So otherwise the construction part, Kenny can talk about that a lot more, because it's gonna go a little longer. I think that's about it for me.
All right, thank you. Moving on to Public Works Director Snetzing.
Yeah, like Bucky had said, the arena project is actually ahead of schedule, so everything is going well over there. The new front doors are installed. We are going to touch base with them tomorrow. Bucky and I have a construction meeting tomorrow at 11. We'll touch base. The side glass panels haven't been installed yet, and I believe there's like window glazers coming in after that. Finish the trim and the ceiling on, so we'll see when they come, everything will be complete on that end. Otherwise, the rest of the project inside is going as planned. As he said, the golf course water line, we're just at the mercy of Mother Nature there. And then I wanted to touch base and let the residents know, and all of you as well. The girls in the office, myself down at Public Works, Dean, we're getting a lot of feedback from residents about all the work that's going on in town. Right now, we have a substantial amount of contractor stuff going on in town. For instance, Minnesota Energy, the gas company, has a contractor boring in new gas lines in all the easements of the county roads before the county road project starts. Minnesota Power, the power company, you've probably seen outfits going in your backyard, trimming trees and hauling the brush out to the curb, etc. A lot of people are under the misunderstanding that these are city projects, and if they're unhappy, they're calling us about their displeasure with the contractor, what they're doing in their yard, and why haven't we been notified, or why isn't the city cleaning up better, or this or that. I just wanted to say, none of these are city projects. They're, Minnesota Energy Project, or a Minnesota Power Project, or a Frontier, there's a company installing fiber optic throughout Elmore and in lines, and why aren't you putting them? Again, all these projects are private contractors being done within the utility easement, which they have the right to do, and again, so we don't mind, in fact, Tammy put together a letter today to give to people with the customer service numbers for all these companies in question who are doing the work in your yard, but again, it's not the city that's doing it. So just wanted residents to be aware that for the most part, all the contractor work going on in town right now has nothing to do with the city. So that's about it.
All right, thank you for that. City Attorney Luki.
Thanks, Mayor, I don't have anything.
All right, thank you. Moving on to reports from elected officials. Councilor Grant.
Nothing to report tonight.
Great. Councilor Garrett.
We have a meeting for the East Range PD tomorrow to choose a new chairman of the board because of the death of the Aurora City Councilor Dan Doty. And Luke was talking that he wanted to see Richard Hess chosen. Apparently he's the most senior member. I'm the vice chairman. So, but then I've got a meeting with the CAP, Citizens Action Panel, I think it is. I'm attending that as an alternate because Brent's out of town this week. And that's all I've got.
All right, thank you. Councilor Hickman.
On Thursday, there's a retirement party for 6 hours at the library from 3 to 6, so. Good time to go and say goodbye and have a retirement tour. And that's about it.
All right, thank you. Councilor Matson is not here, and I have nothing to report tonight. Nothing for old business, so moving on to 11.1 new business. We have Sean from Northspan Consulting, with the East Coast Joint Powers Board, is providing an update. So,
Hello. I'm Sean Haney with Northspan. We are a 501c4 nonprofit that does community and economic development. We're on contract with the East Range Joint Powers Board as their economic developer. And the East Range Joint Powers Board is unique as a joint powers board. I would say they're common around a particular building or utility, but more broadly around all of economic development, as that's common, certainly in our area. And so this is something that started back in '84. So we're ahead of our time in terms of collaboration. And I can tell you someone that works in economic development across the Arrowhead. The East Range Joint Powers Board really does stand out in terms of collaboration. And is something that helps kind of lift up a lot of the things on the East Range that are going exceptionally well and clear models for other places. Which is kind of a cool thing to hear about. So we are focused on economic development. Our overall goal is the common betterment and economic development of our communities. And so really focusing on what can we do together? What can we do to work together to draw in people, draw in, resources, whatever it might be, to really get the ball rolling with economic development. We went through, well, back up a little bit. So Kurt Anslow was I guess you say the point person until about 2019 when he retired. And then that's when Northspan took over. So we're actually a company based out of Duluth. But we service for our programs, 10 counties, a little bit larger than the Arrowhead. And these are programs that are funded by partners in community and economic development, so IRRR, Minnesota Power, those types of places. So that we're able to help provide services to people in the community, often entrepreneurs, business owners, working with communities in, like Hello Range, trying to make it a welcoming place for visitors, which the state has data showing that someone visiting our area makes them 46% more likely to bring their business. So the entire state has geared their business attraction around visitor attraction. And so I would say a lot of our efforts are focused, well, the 4 areas of the strategic plan break down into essentially collaboration, communication, resources, and finances. This is part of the communication, coming out, talking to you, when I was looking through things, I think it was about 2023 when Miriam came out to the council last time, it would have been a couple years ago. Miriam was the person who preceded me in this position. Actually, now that Dean's in his position, we're gonna have him in on a quarterly admins meeting where we try to get the admins of the different communities together to talk about what's going on. And can be a useful time to just really, you know, kind of talk shop with other people who are doing the same thing. But finding out that communication between communities about projects and what's going on, can be a big part of figuring out what's going on for our area and how to lift that up. The collaboration, housing and the daycare have been kind of the 2 of those areas where we've tried to focus resources, because we found in economic development that now it's not just, do you have jobs? It's, do you have jobs? Do you have a house that I can live in? And do you have a place for my kids to go to? And it's interesting because in the realm of things with Northspan, I do commercial economic development in addition to what I do here. And it really is like people looking at bringing industrial manufacturing or, you know, large job providers. It's like, what's the electrical hookup? What's the ceiling height? And darn near question number 3 is when I start asking about housing and daycare and stuff. So there is a joint committee that has representation from each of the communities focused on housing. They went through MHP's Housing Institute, which is kind of guidance from the state on how to organize your community around housing, some of the best practices around it. We're in conversation with different developers, and so there are developers that are interested in building on East Range. Right now, Aurora seems to be the place where they are looking the most, but I would also say a large piece of that is because they are the most ready. In terms of having an identified space that is, has utility hookups, you know, is platted out and is essentially ready to build on. So for Hoyt Lakes, one of my, I guess, challenges to you is to think about where that is or where that could be. I know there's been discussion anyway about after the school comes down, that could be a potential site for development. But once a developer is in the area, it's a lot easier to get them to drive a few miles down the road and build a few more houses if you're ready for it. And we're starting to get where we're getting developers in the area, and that's a big deal for us because it's a lot easier for them to make money in the larger metropolitan areas, and so we really haven't had the availability or builders that were interested in building in our area for the most part. But now we're actually in discussion with a few different ones that are interested. That has been gaining some traction. There's also the marketing committee, which there's 2 of us that are actually on the Discover the Range board as well, which is great because then the East Range has representation on Discover the Range, which is the direct marketing organization for essentially the Iron Range, the Mesabi Range. And it's paid for by a portion of the lodging taxes, but then all of that money goes towards marketing our region. So trying to bring people here for tourism, at Giants Ridge, or, using our trails, using our lakes, whatever it might be, kind of highlighting the community amenities that we have. And right now, the marketing committee's working on a series of 3 videos to kind of highlight the assets of our community. I mean, we've got some, when you look at the East Range as a whole, we've got some of the top state ranked golf courses, we've got some great fishing, we've got actually some really good mountain biking at Giants Ridge, and doing what we can to play up those amenities, but also we're taking a look at when people are here, what can we do to get them to spend more money in the community? So one of the benefits of having like these networking or symbiotic relationships with us being connected with Discover the Range, we were able to get some information from the University of Minnesota Extension through their Placer AI. It's kind of cool, kind of creepy software that tracks people across geography and across different things, but it's neat to be able to tell like when people go places and where they're going and those types of things. And so we had them look at the East Range and kind of do like an annual graph so that we could figure out which events the most people were going to, so that we knew where we'd be the most effective in targeting out of town people. And the Water Carnival was, assumed to be one of the biggest ones. But the big surprise, and what was actually the biggest, was Mesabi East's Nordic Ski Invitational. It is the biggest in the state, and I think they've got something like 900 competitors, but then they've got all the parents and all the people that come with them. And so it was interesting just to kind of open our eyes as to how we view visitors, or how we're trying to get visitors, and the different ways that can happen. But also when they're here, like, okay, how do we get those parents out to places in the community spending money? Those buy local stickers are a very small piece of that, that's kind of the physical representation of that, but the idea is, especially for us as locals, but also when we can get visitors to spend money in our local community. Money spent in the local community circulates 8 times more than, like if it's online, it's gone right away. If it's not even in it, we don't ever see that. But the local businesses on Main Street, the ones in the strip mall, those are kind of the ones that make up a backbone of the town. And so if there is anything that we can do to help, let us know. We're here as a capacity to help add a resource to each of the different cities. So we're not an entity off doing our own separate thing, but we're here to try to coordinate what's going on and get everybody talking to each other. But also, when and where we can to help add capacity. And if it exceeds whatever the contracts for the East Range might be, then when we can tell you, like if you need a specific grant written or something like that, whatever that could be, because North Span does a lot of different economic consulting services with underwriting loan funds and economic development funds, and we have one for the East Range Joint Powers Board that we are going to start they're called business retention and expansion interviews. So essentially connecting with businesses in the community to find out, as businesses, what kind of resources do they need? Do they need a business plan or cash flow analysis? Do they need access to capital? Those kinds of things. And then trying to connect them with whatever those resources are. One of the capital resources that we have available through the Joint Powers Board is our revolving loan fund. So we've got a companion loan fund to help essentially make projects bigger. Doesn't have a firm cap, but it's, you know, I'd say a soft cap of around $50,000, but they've got 140 to lend out. And I would say right now, the main thing is that it's gotta be a secondary loan, so if they're getting a primary. But there's no stipulation as to what the primary has to be, so you can go to your local bank, get a $5,000 loan. And then come to the East Range from the Powers Board and probably get a better interest rate for the rest of it. You know, obviously depends upon the project, it's gotta be a good project, but it is there as a resource, for the ones that are. And, with daycare, so Masabi East, there's two ways that they regionally excel and that we really try to lift up what they do. One is with their farm to school program and the programming that they do with the greenhouse. The other is actually with the daycare that they provide through the school. And they're unique because there's lots of schools that will provide the before and after care, but very few schools provide during the daycare. And Masabi East goes down to 30 months. Technically, it's not daycare, technically it's community ed because of bureaucracy and logistics and all of this. But we don't have any institutional and very limited in-home capacity for infants in the community. And Jeff, the superintendent, has essentially said that space is available for darn near free. If a provider wants to come in and use that space to provide daycare, we can help find money to pay for the renovations that are necessary to change it from, you know, essentially school to daycare and from public to private provider. We've got an estimate that's probably about 60,000. We probably have grants to cover most of that. But we're looking for a daycare provider that's interested in potentially doing that and doing from infants all the way up so that we could have a full range daycare provider on the East Range. Because right now you'd be looking at probably one over to Virginia, unless you knew a person who wasn't necessarily an official daycare. And in terms of options, there really is.
And that would be at the school?
At the school. So they've got space that they're using right now, and they're using paras to staff the program. And Jeff has even said that there's essentially another classroom next to it that potentially could also go to that use depending upon what they wanted their overall capacity to be.
How is that being like advertised or like put out to the public or things like that? Because I haven't heard, I work at.
Okay, so that's interesting. We've sent it out through the East Range newsletter, you know, the East Range app. As I'm out talking to different groups, but I guess I haven't had talked with Jeff about advertising it internally in the school. To be honest, I don't know that it necessarily occurred to me to look inside the school for someone who would be interested in that. But it does make sense that there would be some level of communication with the school.
Well, just to spread word, like, hey.
Yeah. Right, and because that's part of it, is you want as many people to know so that the right person finds out, you know, wherever they are. So I will circle back with that. One of the things that the East Range Marketing Committee came up with to try to like highlight different activities is our series of signature events, which is like if you're gonna do one thing in a month, you know, go do this. And the water carnival is obviously on there. But if there are other events throughout the course of the year that, you know, for whatever reason might not be on my radar, although if it's in the East Range shopper, I probably know about it. Which, you know, I know communication on the range is always a hard thing. But we are, oh, sorry, that just reminded me. So Discover the Range now has software that will, what do you call it, crawl Facebook events. So if you put your local event on Facebook, it will end up on Iron Range Tourism Board. Which is a big leap forward for us, because there's always been okay, how do we get all the events in one place? How do we help people know about them? And now that we've got a software that will automatically add it on there. And actually, I talked to Sue at the library, and she told me it was working. They had just created a Facebook event for something and then went to add it to the website, and it was already. Private events are obviously still private. So it has to be an event, it has to be on Facebook, it's not from websites. But it's one of the other, bits of progress that we've made, or, help contribute to, streamline doing, highlighting the community and. I guess helping people know what's going on, part of it is helping people in the community know what's going on, and part of it is. Helping people when they're coming from outside the area, so I'll be honest, we're still working on it. But we're the reason why we're getting these videos done is to focus on a series of digital marketing campaigns. And we're focusing on digital marketing because then you can measure the response rate. You can measure, like, did the person go to your web page, did they click on it, did they watch the whole video? Whereas with the traditional print media, you don't know if anybody sees it, you don't know if they throw it in the garbage or, what happens with it. So we're also trying to use technology so that we get more feedback on the different things that we're trying. That's about the gist of, what we've been doing lately. I ran out of copies, but we also put together a trail map of like the bike, ATV and other trails for the East Range, which is kind of nice. I'll see if I can get you some digital copies, or maybe I'll get them to Sherry through the Joint Powers Board. I'm pretty sure we have some more back at the office.
We have print ones at the VFW and the Haven already too, that they just passed them out this weekend to people that were
Well, there
coming
we go.
up. So
That's
they're getting out there already.
That's good. Any questions about any of the initiatives or the things that we do, or ideas about off the top of the head, things that we can do to help out here?
How do people contact you, like?
Uh,
Like, I haven't really heard anything about the Joint Powers Board, other than just Sherry being on it
Sure.
over the last couple of years, but like. I don't know if a lot of people know Joint Powers Board or span or things like that.
You are probably right, and that is part of why one of our strategic directions is focused on communication and trying to get that word out. The contact information is available on our website. We do have a website. I can give you my card. Actually, I should have done that already. But Sherry's got my contact information. We do, when we're going out and meeting with businesses in the community, to share our contact information, so. But I do agree that I think kind of generally people aren't as aware of the Joint Powers Board, or what it does, or, what is that, what does it do?
Our mayor has always served on the board. This year, Dave Jarvis was the rep, but ever since 1984, our mayor has served on the board of the Joint Powers Board, so they bring back information to the
Yeah, but I
council.
just, I've never really heard much about the Joint Powers Board, or, there's people that want to open businesses, but it'd be great to have that information.
And I do provide, like, I have a lot of local businesses, with that gave them the information, to contact, because they either reach out to City Hall or to the Joint Powers Board, and then I pass them on to the Small Business Administration or to North Span. So we have, a lot of connections over the last few years, the people seeking their help in whether it's starting up a business or getting funding. We have 4 or 5 current loans to local businesses right now that they got a couple of years ago to do renovations or digital marketing or technology upgrades. So we have loaned out I can't think of the total right now, what we loaned over the last few years, but I think there's 6 current businesses that have loans through us.
And I intend to be a part of that process too, I did a meeting with Dave this week, or last week. Yeah, so I'll be great for people. And that's some way, shape or form.
Do the minutes get sent out to the city council?
The packet has always gone to, whoever serves as the rep, so, Dave, and then, the administrator. And then
I do get the
copy
package ahead of
separately. So they could be distributed, whether it's in the packet or just forwarded on to the council, you know, here's the. Because it has the North projects we're working on, stuff, you know.
Sure, yeah, because I do often wonder what information works its way back to the councils. As a part of our monthly report, we've actually got, it's like a color coded measurement of the strategic plan that's, you know, it's on track or it's done or in process. And then shows, you know, for our 4 strategic directions, kind of each of the individual line items. So we can definitely have that forwarded on, I would think, to everybody to, you know, even if you don't want to see it every month, you know, to see it at least right now, to get a snapshot of it would be pretty helpful.
Brennan, could we have Dave forward it on whenever you guys get the packet every month? Could he just
Okay.
forward?
I
Either Dave or-
I've been with just sharing that information, but.
Dave, I can take that, I can make sure that gets in the board package.
Okay, that'd be awesome.
So I think previously they used to be, I mean, thinking back to past consent agendas, they've always been included in that. From.
I thought they were on some of them, yeah, I haven't seen it lately, but I thought they, yeah, had been.
We also, honestly, this is usually an annual visit, and because of the transition between Miriam and I, there was kind of an off year there. So it has been a little longer since we've specifically gone out and talked to the communities. But, you know, we'll continue to do that, and for that matter, if there's a group where you feel like, you know, whoever it is should really know about this, you know, feel free to connect them with us, or, you know, we can go speak wherever. We're very flexible, and one of the nice things about North Span, because we're involved in, I'd like to say, all things economic development, we have funded programs for entrepreneur services. So in addition to what we're able to provide just through East Green resources, we have entrepreneurship programs that we can connect them with. I hesitate a little bit just because everything's kind of on and off with the federal government right now, so we're still figuring things out, as a lot of people are, but right now we're keeping the lights on and keeping things going. But our scholarship money for some of the programs got cut, but we do still have educational services, we still have referrals, have, you know, a lot of things that we're able to offer with entrepreneurs. But thank you very much for the feedback on the school, and you know, if there are ideas about specific groups that we should reach out to, especially with business retention and expansion interviews, we're gonna be doing those over the next couple of months. So any businesses you can think of that want to grow, you know, those are really the ones we're targeting. You know, we'll talk to anybody, but we're looking for the ones that want to grow. But North Span does also provide succession planning. Now, that is one of our fee for service things that we do. But if a business wants to, that's what we do.
So we use that service for the new police chief when we,
Yes,
we're trying to find a way how to make sure we got the right fit. We had a lot of meetings with you guys to, yeah, get a new police chief.
yeah, outside of economic development, we do a lot of conversation, facilitation, strategic planning.
All right, any other questions for Sean before we move along with our agenda? All right, and then we'll keep in contact with these range however more and get updates and things to them. But
Yeah, in that monthly packet, there's updates, every month on kind of what we're doing. On the first page, they've got the highlights, you know, if you're gonna read just the one page, read that part there and it'll give you a pretty good idea of what's going on. And Sherry's got my contact information, she will see what they have seen, birds that can get down way out.
So we'll know how to get a hold of you if you ever have any further questions or things to discuss or talk through. Anything else from you before we, get going with our agenda?
No. Oh, one last thing, we're calling it a East Range Summit. June 2nd, it is a Monday from 10 to 1, there's free lunch. It's at the Ridge, we will have speaker Ben Winchester from the U Extension. He specializes in rural economic development. And then we're gonna have a panel kind of talking about some of the exceptional things that are going on in East Range, and get free lunch, so. It's kind of the small kickoff and start to what was the idea of trying to get all the people, not all the people, but as many as we can from the East Range together at the same time to help have a discussion about what the projects in other communities are, start having collaboration discussions that are kind of outside of the pockets that they're kind of in right now.
What was that date again?
June 2nd. And a digital invite with that information will be going out shortly.
They'd be at the lodge or the Cuba or?
A lot, I believe.
I believe that invite went out today.
Like that?
There was an invite that went out today in regards to that.
Was there? Okay. Perfect.
Yeah, I see your.
Here's my card, so you all know how to get it. And feel free to share my info. And I'm just up the road, so I'm always ready to meet with people. Yeah, okay. Well, great. All right.
All right, thank you, Sean.
Did your company change names from North Span to Dawn?
No, actually, just take a very quick moment on that. So Dawn is the overarching program for all of the free services that we provide.
Okay.
And then Norspan provides Dawn and then fee for services. So very roughly, if you want us to do math that costs money. That's more or less where the line is, you know, we'll give you like free demographic reports and free entrepreneurial assistance, but if you want a feasibility study or a succession plan, economic impact study, those cost money. So it's roughly where we break down. I'm glad that you asked that question because the rebranding took place in January. And there's been a lot of internal discussion about it and how effective it is or how much confusion it's creating between Dawn and Norspan. So I appreciate the question. So, all right, well, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Sean.
Sean, good one.
All Norspan, moving on to 11.2, recommendation to approve variance request for 206 Suffolk Drive. Looks like the planning commission held a public hearing on April 15, 2025 for a variance request at 206 Suffolk in regards to distance from garage to road. The commission made the recommendation for the city council to approve the variance request. Dave, did you attend?
I was there, I think you were there too, Dave.
I was there.
Yeah, this is for those that don't know, the address is the store is the house up on Suffolk there that had the second story put on it. And his access to the garage he's got in the back is only through the one-way street. He's looking to get a variance for distance to put another 30 by 30 garage in the back there. That will be accessed from that same street. He got the room and everything for the garage to be on the lot. It's just he's looking for the variance for the distance for the road. And
They had, the letter had gone out to 21 surrounding neighbors. Nobody showed up at the meeting or made a comment at all.
Oh,
So apparently nobody was against it. Their recommendation was that we approve the variance, and with that in mind, I would make the motion to do so.
okay, we have a motion from Councilor Jarvala. Is there anybody that'd like to second or support that approval of the recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission to approve that variance?
I'll second.
We have a second from Councilor Ekman. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Moving on to 11.3, League of Minnesota Cities Annual Conference in Duluth. Looks like registration is now open for the 2025 League of Minnesota Cities Annual Conference in Duluth. From June 25th and 27th. Early bird pricing ends the 2nd of May. So this is just informational. Yeah, anything to add from meeting?
I just look at, I don't believe that either motion that, but I do plan on attending, I'll be doing the early bird special for 275. And I won't be staying overnight or anything, I'll just drive down and come back.
Oh,
From what I understand, it's really good, so.
Yeah, I attended last year and it was some good information, some good speakers. I'm considering maybe just going for the day on Thursday. So I'll let you guys know before then in case there's more of us that wanted to go, but I don't know if we can get by just the day passes or not, so I'll look into it and maybe.
Apparently, the early bird pricing in March 5th through May 2nd, so we'll be this week.
Okay.
At least it's signed up.
and I'm assuming this just rolls into the budgeting for training.
Yeah, it's in there. It's typically the kind of everything.
Oh. Sounds good. Any further discussion or questions regarding that conference in Duluth? Hearing none, we'll move on to 11.4, the final piece of our meeting. Community volunteer cleanup days. Community volunteer cleanup is scheduled for 5 p.m. on Wednesday, May 7th. Volunteers can meet at the community building, to clean up public areas and places. Bags will be provided. We ask volunteers to leave all their bags of trash in one pile in an easily accessible area for pickup the following morning. If there's rain, the backup date is Wednesday, May 14th at 5 p.m. This will be posted on bulletin board at City Hall, published in the East Range Times, on the city website, the Arena Time, and then on Facebook. Just to ensure that people are aware, this is not the curb cleanup. That will be happening in June, and that will be advertised at a later date. So community volunteer cleanup. Any sort of discussion or questions regarding that? So it sounds like a day for folks to get together and clean up the community. So that was 11.4. Anything else to add on to that?
No, we just chose to spread out the public postings for that, so when people start putting stuff out on the curb when it's community cleanup day and not, with curbside pickup days. Just learn more.
Do we have a tentative date for the curb?
June 8th, 9th, it's that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Monday and Tuesday will be the public works days, and Wednesday is the day that Eastern Sanitation picks up all the garbage where they're not required to use yellow or.
And then just to reiterate, that is at a later date, not a later date. Yeah, this is something different, just so that people are aware. Any other discussion on that? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to adjournment.
So moved.
We have a motion from Councilor Jarvala. Anybody like to second or support that?
I'll second.
Second by Councilor Graham. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion.
And you just took, confirm this to 27th. It's Tuesday the 27th, because Monday the 26th is Memorial Day, so it's Tuesday the 27th, okay.
And one thing about this,
Make sure.
I'm not 100% sure we're recording, because I've been watching this and this is an early jerk. So before the next meeting, we'll have a couple of rounds, but I think a lot of it's that to do with the storms that we through.
Yeah, I mean, when the video had shown up, it has been.
Just so everybody knows that we do this, and I'm not 100% sure. We're gonna do it. It's, well,
I don't think, we're giving our best effort. If it didn't work, then It'll be a
Windstorm.
right.
What time do we?
It didn't work, huh? I, the big